Your kind doesn't deserve real money. The words hit the lobby before the flame did. At 2:47 p.m., under the white lights of First National Bank, Marcus Wellington flicked open a silver lighter and held a burning check inches from David Williams's face. A $2.3 million check David hadn't even defended. Ash drifted onto his sneakers as customers filmed, some whispering, some smirking, all waiting for David to break. But he didn't. He stood there, quiet, steady, watching the fire eat through his future on the marble floor. Say something, the manager taunted, grinding the remains with his heel. Fraud, like you should be grateful I didn't call the cops first. David finally raised his eyes. The room fell strangely still. Not anger. Not fear. Just a calm that didn't belong to a man being humiliated in public. And that's when the twist no one expected, the one that would append every assumption in this room, began forming behind that silence. Because in exactly 13 minutes, the man they were mocking would walk into a board meeting that decided all of their futures. What happens next will shock everyone in that lobby. If you want more stories that hit this hard, subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales and stay with us. The flame had barely died when the room shifted into something colder than the marble beneath David's feet. Phones kept recording. Customers leaned in, drawn to the spectacle of a man being stripped of dignity in front of strangers. The manager's voice cut through the tension again. "Pick up the ashes," Wellington ordered, his tone dripping with theatrical disgust. "If you're going to bring trash into my bank, the least you can do is clean it up." A couple near the loan desk stifled laughter. The blonde woman with the live stream whispered to her viewers, "This guy is done. Burned and exposed." David didn't reach down. He simply looked at the scattered remains, then back at Wellington with a calmness so steady it made several customers frown, unsure why he wasn't breaking. That calm carried weight, like he wasn't the one losing anything. A security guard stepped closer. "Sir, cooperate. Don't make this harder." David's voice remained even. "I'm not touching evidence you destroyed." The guard blinked, thrown off by the unexpected phrasing. But Wellington sneered. "Evidence of what? Your little fantasy payday." His polished shoe nudged the ash. "There's nothing left. No check. No proof. No future." He turned to the cameras, spreading his arms like a performer taking center stage. "This is what happens when fraud walks through my doors." David let the silence speak for him. His eyes didn't show panic, just calculation, like he was measuring the seconds left before something changed. The clock on the wall read 2:52 p.m. A young man near the ATM lowered his phone slightly. "Dude, why is he so calm?" he murmured to his friend. "Guilty people freeze," the friend whispered. "Maybe that's it." But the first young man wasn't convinced. Something in David's posture, straight spine, steady breath, the way his fingers touched the edge of his watch, felt wrong in a room built on assumptions. Wellington stepped closer, invading David's space. "I asked you for ID. You gave me garbage. I asked where you work. You dodged the question. I asked you to prove your check was real, and you just stood there." He tapped David's chest with 2 fingers. "You're not owed respect just because you walk in here with attitude." David's voice, quiet but sharp, cut through the air. "I never raised my voice. You did. And I'd do it again," Wellington snapped. "People like you always think rules don't apply. Well, in my bank they do." That's when the assistant manager, Sarah, finally stepped in. Her voice trembled. "Marcus, maybe we should step aside for a moment, just to confirm some details quietly." "No," Wellington crossed his arms. "I'm not walking away. Not when he's trying to con us." "He hasn't actually done anything yet," she started. "Yet," Wellington barked. "Sarah, stop. I'm handling this." Her eyes flicked toward David again, drawn to the same detail the others had missed. The watch. Not flashy, not oversized, just finely crafted. And those shoes, worn, yes, but unmistakably high-end once she looked properly. Something twisted in her expression, an unease that wasn't there earlier. David exhaled slowly. Is there any point in explaining, or is this entire room already convinced of the story he made up? You think you can intimidate us? Wellington scoffed. With your little silent routine. Listen to me. If you ever step foot in this bank again. David cut him off softly. You don't have the authority to finish that sentence. A murmur rippled across the room. A few customers exchanged confused looks. The guard paused mid-step. Even the blonde woman lowered her phone for a second. What did you just say? Wellington demanded, jaw tightening. I said, David repeated, voice steady. You don't have the authority. Wellington laughed. Loud, harsh, overcompensating. I run this branch. You run a lobby, David corrected gently. A small part of something much bigger. Something you clearly don't understand. Before Wellington could fire back, the glass doors slid open, and a sharply dressed woman strode in, heels clicking briskly against the floor. Her presence alone shifted the room's energy. She scanned the scene. Burned ashes, 2 guards, a crowd filming, and David sitting too calmly for a supposed criminal. What on earth is happening here? She demanded. The businessman eagerly jumped in. The manager caught a scammer. Burned the fake check right in front of him. Her eyes snapped to David. Recognition flickered. Then fear. Dear God, she whispered. Wellington, thinking he'd gained an ally, puffed out his chest. Ma'am, you're witnessing proper fraud prevention. I neutralized the threat. Neutralized. The word hung in the air, ugly and ignorant. The woman pulled out her phone. Not to film. Call. Jennifer, she said into the line, voice urgent. It happened. The incident he warned about. The room buzzed. What incident? Someone asked. Wellington frowned. Ma'am, I don't know who you think he is. He, she said, cutting him off sharply, is the reason your job exists. The live streamer nearly dropped her phone. Wait, what? Wellington blinked, confused. What are you talking about? She walked straight to David. Sir, I'm so sorry. We've been calling your office. They said you were coming here today, but I didn't realize. David finally stood. Entered. Controlled. You didn't know, he said gently. None of them did. Wellington glanced between them, color draining from his face. Who is he? David reached into his jacket and placed a white business card on the counter. The woman angled it slightly so the lights reflected the embossed silver lettering. David Williams, Chairman and CEO, Williams Capital Group majority shareholder. First National Bank. The room froze as if every sound had been swallowed. The businessman gasped. The blonde live streamer clapped a hand over her mouth. The teenagers whispered, No way, no way. Wellington didn't speak. Couldn't. That check you burned, David said quietly, was my dividend. My money. From my bank. You can't be, Wellington stuttered. David unlocked his tablet with a fingerprint scan. A corporate board portal flashed open, displaying his photo, his title, his ownership stake. The camera's filming zoomed in instinctively. The guard lowered his radio. Sarah stepped back, hand over her chest. The live stream chat exploded. The manager swallowed hard. Mr. Williams, sir. I didn't. David held up a hand. Stop. Silence fell again. You didn't want to know, he said. You didn't ask. You judged. You assumed. You performed for an audience instead of doing your job. The atmosphere thickened as the truth settled over them. I came here today unannounced, David continued, to test customer service before a board meeting. What I found was this. His gaze drifted to the ashes. A symbol of arrogance. A symbol of prejudice. A symbol of a man who thought his authority was unbreakable. I can fix this, Wellington whispered desperately. Sir, please, I can. You can start, David said softly, by returning my wallet. Hands shaking, Wellington took out the stolen wallet and offered it with both palms like a lifeline. David took it without looking at him. Sarah stepped forward, voice trembling. Mr. Williams, If I may, policies require immediate reporting of property destruction. And discrimination counts as grounds for termination, David finished. Wellington's eyes widened. No, please. The live streamer whispered into her phone. Oh my God. Is he getting fired, Liv? David didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Marcus Wellington, he said. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending formal review. Security will escort you to gather your personal belongings. Your access to internal systems is revoked. The guards moved. Wellington stepped back. Sir, please, my family, my kids, my home. Something flickered in David's face. Not pity, clarity. You had power, David said, and you used it to hurt someone because you thought they were beneath you. You burned what wasn't yours. You humiliated a customer you were supposed to serve. David nodded to the guards. Escort him out. Wellington tried one last time, reaching out as though his fingers could pull back the past. I'm begging you. The guards took his arms. The marble floor echoed with the slow drag of footsteps, the sound of a man being removed from the world he once commanded. Customers watched silent. Phones recorded. Thousands online witnessed the consequence. As the doors shut behind the disgraced manager, the room exhaled. Sarah turned to David, voice steadying. Sir, what happens next? David looked at the ashes one last time. Change, he said. Real change. He lifted the scattered remnants with care, as if gathering something far more important than paper. This branch will rebuild its integrity, he said. Piece by piece. Policy by policy. Employee by employee. And him? A teenager asked quietly. What happens to the manager? David didn't turn. His answer was simple, decisive, and final. He'll learn, David said. One way or another. As David walked toward the boardroom doors upstairs, the cameras followed him. Not the fallen manager. The story wasn't about humiliation anymore. It was about accountability. About dignity reclaimed. About power wielded with purpose, not ego. And for everyone watching, inside the bank and across thousands of screens, the hook was undeniable. The man who burned someone else's worth just saw his own future go up in smoke. When the doors closed behind the former manager and the lobby fell quiet again, David didn't stay to watch the reactions. He simply walked toward the exit with the same steady composure he'd carried through the entire ordeal. But something inside him had shifted. Not anger. Not triumph. Something deeper. An understanding of how quickly a person's worth can be dismissed, and how easily truth can change the entire room when it finally rises to the surface. As he crossed the marble floor, customers moved aside, not out of fear but out of recognition. Some lowered their phones, unsure how to face the man they had misjudged. Others offered small nods, the kind people give when they see a story they won't forget anytime soon. Outside, the city's late afternoon light reflected on the glass walls of the bank. David paused for a moment, watching the faint outline of his own reflection. Casual clothes, calm eyes, a man who'd chosen clarity over rage. He knew the policies he'd put in place would outlive the moment. They would reshape the building behind him long after the ashes had been swept away. And maybe that was the quiet victory he hadn't expected today. Not proving someone wrong, but proving that change was still possible, even in places that had forgotten how to see people fully. As David stepped into the street, a gust of wind carried a tiny fleck of the burned check through the doorway behind him. It floated for a second, then vanished into the light, one last reminder of a moment that would never be repeated. If stories like this stay with you, help us share more by liking this video, spreading it to someone who needs it, and subscribing to Canada's Heartfelt Tales. Your support helps these truths reach further.